Snap 3-day restrictions for Sydney. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian Heise here, and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. Grab your stein of coffee, because, well, Sydney have 3-day restrictions in place. Now, let's just jump in and have a look at what's being proposed here, and then we'll talk about a few things. So, snap 3-day restrictions for Sydney. There's good old Buffett. We've already seen some of his clips. New restrictions will be imposed on Greater Sydney from Thursday after another person tested positive for coronavirus in Sydney. Premier Gladys Berejiklian said the wife of a man in his 50s who tested positive on Wednesday also returned a positive test. In an effort to halt the spread of coronavirus, Ms. Berejiklian has announced a number of new restrictions for Greater Sydney, including Wollongong, Central Coast and Blue Mountains, in effect from 5 p.m. today. So, as I'm recording this, you still have a few hours. We acknowledge it was Mother's Day on Sunday. Oh, yeah, it is, isn't it? Oops. The Premier said for the next 3 days, people could only welcome a maximum of 20 people into their home. We know that transmission in the family home is a high risk, she said. I appreciate that it's Mother's Day, but we also appreciate that 20 people within the home is manageable for people to celebrate that important day. Ms. Berejiklian added, No singing. I still don't get that. No singing or dancing would be allowed in indoor venues from 5 p.m. today, including places of worship and entertainment venues. Weddings will be an exception. However, health authorities recommend only 20 people on the dance floor at any time. So masks are required in Greater Sydney for the next 3 days. People in Greater Sydney will also be required to wear masks at indoor venues for the next 3 days, including in supermarkets and on public transport. Hospitality workers will also have to wear masks. However, patrons eating and drinking will be exempt. We want to make sure that people are just sensible, Ms. Berejiklian said. Make sure you avoid large events if you're vulnerable, and make sure you exhibit good hand hygiene, and most importantly, make sure you have the mildest of symptoms. You come forward and get tested. We're not shutting down the city. In response to questions about why the state had such a harsh reaction to 2 cases, Ms. Berejiklian said it's very proportionate. Well, other states, other cities have done entire lockdowns where you couldn't even leave your home. So it does seem quite proportionate compared to what would Victoria have done. Unlike other premiers, we're not shutting down the city. We're not changing the 2 square meter rule. Quite the contrary, she said. We're saying to everybody business as usual, but just do a few extra things. We know that at least one person has been going about their business, potentially going shopping, attending events, going to family gatherings. We don't know. Until we do know that, and until we know that there aren't any more cases that are going to pop up, it's a very proportionate response. Ms. Berejiklian, now see, this is what the dialogue is going to be about moving forward, if the response was appropriate. We're seeing one side of the political spectrum, the Labor premiers, they're being very harsh and very authoritarian with their lockdowns and with their restrictions. And here we have the other side, or you can't really say size, they're all so far to the left anyway. But anyway, we've got a Liberal Premier who's being less harsh. Now, if this blows up, regardless of the facts and reality of the actual impact of these restrictions, there are going to be calls for, you should have been harder, you should have been tougher, you should have put more lockdowns, taken more freedom away. Can you hear it now, everyone? Can you just imagine? And this is the thing now. How long is this going to start? Will we become accustomed to this? Are people going to start calling for this for every time there's even a mild illness? Ms. Berejiklian added that other states would have locked down whole cities, closed businesses, stopped events, and banned dancing at weddings. We're not doing any of that. I mean, if you just look at these things, ban dancing at weddings, what are we turning into caliphate? So there we have it, everyone. 3 days of restrictions in Sydney, wearing masks. They're not shutting down the city. 20 people at a venue, and no singing. Well, my singing isn't that good anyway, so I don't think anyone would complain about that. But there's one thing I just want to draw to your attention. You know, I would like you to have, if you haven't watched these two videos, I'd encourage you to watch them, to question the narrative that's being put forward. Because, you know, one regarding the actual impact and benefit of lockdowns. There's evidence out there to suggest that it didn't play a dominant role in reducing transmissions. Now, this video is a Odyssey exclusive, or a library exclusive, everyone. If you haven't subscribed to my channel on Odyssey or Library, I suggest you have a look. There's a lot of good content creators that have been deplatformed or removed from YouTube, or who, let's just say, YouTube doesn't choose to do business with anymore, that have now migrated over to Odyssey. So there's some great content on there if you're not familiar with it. But I'd suggest you have a look at that video, because it really backs up a lot of what I mentioned in another video, disease mitigation measures. This is a letter or essay written by D.A. Henderson, a famous epidemiologist. And this is back when we had the whole bird flu pandemic and the fear there, and essentially being critical of all of these restrictions that we've implemented, saying it's not worth it. You know, that's the thing. There, the argument is, and it really hasn't changed, is that a vaccine is the most effective solution long-term to addressing it. But I think the fear that people have with it, yeah, it seems quite reasonable. At least the news isn't helping at all, is it? So I'd suggest you have a look at these videos to question the narrative. I mean, very good on the Premier for not locking down the whole city. I think she can be commended with that. And let's hope other premiers will follow suit here in Australia, because the economic damage of that, it's not even discussed anymore. It's not even discussed. Because remember, where does the government get our money from? It just generates debt. We either pay it or they inflate it away. One way or another, we're paying the price for this. And they don't do real economic modelling to test the implications of this. So at least it's very good that they haven't shut everything down. I feel sorry for the Sydneyites, but it's a much better outcome than if you had Dan Andrews in charge. That's for sure. So what are the solutions to this? I would suggest to become politically active. And we need to shift and drag the Overton window over to a more sensible position. It has gone so far authoritarian, it is scary. People are calling for interventions, restrictions, and sacrificing liberties to such an extent that people will become accustomed to it. Some of the things that are being said in the media by our politicians, which would have been ridiculed as the discussions of a madman years ago, like some of this rubbish that's coming out of a senator, blaming colonization for the patriarchy on Indigenous Australians. That's the latest thing I've heard that I think is just utterly ludicrous. How can people believe these things? And these are politicians. Maybe we need to have a minimum. Maybe the real issue is universal suffrage. Maybe there needs to be a certain level of capability and, responsibility to the future generations of the country that affects your level of suffrage. Because otherwise, stupid bloody activists are going to have much more influence than you realize, because they make the noise. I would suggest we need to advocate for a real Bill of Rights in Australia. Number one, to enshrine our freedom of speech in this country. We don't really have it. There's a lot of things you can't discuss if it's deemed politically inappropriate. And we saw in Victoria their Bill of Rights there was complete rubbish. They could remove it just at a whim. So there we have it, everyone. Let me know your thoughts and opinions on this one in the comments down below. Thank you all for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. If you're a fan and enjoy the content I create here, there are a few ways you can support us. You can join us on YouTube or Patreon. You can sign up for SelfWealth or Stake for the share trades. You can use our affiliate links at Amazon, eBay, Independent Reserve, or AussieBroadband. You can buy merch from HeiseSays, use Gold Pass from the Perth Mint, or support us via PayPal. Take care, everyone. Have a great day. I will see you in the next episode. Bye for now.